Of course, there's a political angle to this, and I don't think it gets any better than Dismas Mokua, who's a political risk analyst, to help us break it down. Karibu sana, Dismas.
Thank you very much.
Karibu. Next, we have Stephen Gikonyo, who is here to break down the governance aspect. You're well steeped into this. Karibu sana, and bring your A-game in terms of insight.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. Now, we have our good Professor Gitile Naituli, who's well known in the circles of management and leadership. He is an incisive mind and is here to share his insight with us tonight. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Last but not least, of course, is Brian Olang. Brian comes to us from Vocal Africa, where I believe you're the legal advisor. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to the wonderful people in our studio, habari zenu? Mko tayari? Thank you. Thank you. Now, one more thing. If you are speaking from the other side, if you've got a microphone, if I point to you, please do the honor of standing up. For two reasons. You respect the room and you allow the cameras to capture you in all your glory. I know some of you are aspirants and your village people are watching, right? So make sure you speak boldly and firmly. Splendid. I've got a question, and I want us to start from this point of just the immediate former, IEBC as constituted. I'd like to find out if, this new IEBC can be able to reestablish credibility that clearly has been lost for some time. Of course, remembering that in 2022, 4 commissioners publicly disowned the presidential tally, exposing deep cracks within the IEBC. This, of course, undermined public confidence. Dismas, I have a question for you. With internal dissent so raw, what public signals will tell us that this new IEBC is genuinely cohesive and not fractured?
In my view, the biggest challenge or crisis facing most of the public institutions is trust. Mm-hmm. So the first thing for the new chairman and the entire team is to ensure that they reestablish trust. And this trust is not just limited to Kenya. It's for most of the electoral bodies all over the world. Like a few days ago in the US, when actually before the US presidential elections, you remember the new president, Donald J. Trump, had indicated that if he doesn't win, then the process is not free, fair, nor credible. But as soon as he won, the process was free, fair, and credible. The same can be said of Venezuela. And actually, the same can be said in Kenya. You remember after the last general election, people cast aspersions on the quality of the electoral process. So for the new chairman and his team, the first thing he must do is to ensure that there is trust. And the trust rests on 4 pillars. The first pillar is on the trust of delivery. Mm-hmm. He must demonstrate to Kenyans that IEBC has got resources, that is money set aside by the National Assembly, and they've got capacity and competence. And then number 2, that the systems and procedures at IEBC are verifiable. That means that Mura or Nafula can actually touch the systems and procedures. That is the first element. The second element is engagement. That means that they must engage with all the stakeholders, starting from the voters, coming to the political leaders, coming to the political parties. They must identify the powerful political candidates and ensure that their interests and aspirations are taken care of. That is to mean that the election must not just meet the legal standards, that, we followed the Constitution, we followed all the relevant acts. No, it must identify with the stakeholder needs. They may need to speak to all the powerful political voices, that if those voices cast aspersions on the quality of election, then we get into trouble. That means they must have conversations with all the leading presidential candidates, and they must identify the powerful people. Like, for instance, if you go to the Senate, you need to look for a gentleman called Richard Onyonka and persuade him that what you are going to do is going to be a success. You need to look for somebody like Sifuna and persuade him that what you are going to do is credible. And then you must have a proactive communication strategy. Because in the past, the challenge was that the former chairman, and in my community we don't discuss dead people, so I'm not going to mention his name, but you see the former chairman, when he came, he had challenges with communications. So people did not know the systems that have been established at IEBC, whether they're going to be a success or whether they're going to be a failure. Then the third pillar is the question of integrity. They must assure us that the entire leadership of IEBC starting from the commissioners to the electoral officials and the people who are going to be employed on a temporary basis, that all of them are ethical and they're persons of integrity, and they're guided by the rule of law and nothing more. Now, if you do those three things, then you're going to re-establish trust. But if you don't do that, then people will not take your word to the bank. In other words, the new committee must go the extra mile to persuade Kenyans that wherever they make a pronouncement, right from MCA level to the presidential level, their word can be taken to the bank.
All right.
And the new IBC has got some people who are very solid in communications. And you know, you can pick out a name like Dr. Alutalala. He's very solid in communication, and he's a lawyer, and he's got a PhD in leadership. That is the kind of person who can be used in communication. Because you see, if you don't do that, then you're going to be winking at a girl in the dark. Everybody knows within IBC what they're doing, but the public doesn't know. If they don't do that, then they'll be in trouble. And then the second point, they must take control or immunize themselves from very funny politicians. Like, for instance, there's I don't know whether it's a women rep or she's a nominated leader, who with alacrity says that they're going to steal elections. And you recall Musalia Mudavadi giving a warning shot. Those are the kind of people who must be penalized, because when you have a position of leadership, and then you go to the top of Mount Kenya literally and say, it doesn't matter the outcome of this election, President Ruto is going to win, and then the new commission sits back and says, wait a minute, we've just assumed office, ngoja tukaa hapa kidogo, then you're going to issue a statement. No, such kind of people must be penalized, and if it's possible, the voters back home or the political party need to recall that leader, because those are the people who poison the electoral environment.
All right, all right. Prof, let me